Yo, this Iron Man movie was awesome.
Oi, sure was, mate.
Why don't we stop by Game Crazy on the way home and buy the game? I bet it'd be just as good. Hello, sir. One copy of Iron Man on Sony's entertainment platform, the PlayStation 3, please.
Sure.
Am I willing to die on my feet? Or will I live my life on my knees? Do I have what it takes to become truly great? To become more than a man? To become Iron Man?
What the fuck? Welcome to Appreciation Review Critique, where I take a game and give my honest opinion about it, while also at the same time I admire it to give the developer team full credit for their creation. The kickoff to the MCU was huge with the release of the first Iron Man movie back in 2008. I remember I was a kid back then, very excited to see the movie. At the time we only had a few superhero movies that legitimately had me excited and having fun while watching them. Those were the Superman, Fantastic Four, and the Spider-Man films. Sure, there was the Hulk movie released in 2003, but it was too boring for my young mind, and I also couldn't make coherent sense as to what was even happening. Soon I found out we were getting another hero movie. I was pumped! I ended up picking up Iron Man on the PS2 because the PS3 version was obviously more expensive, so I had to make do with the previous gen version. My memories of what I experienced with the game were great. I recall it being fun, and I've always maintained that interpretation of it. So once I found a copy of the PS3 version, I had to pick it up. I figured I'll undergo the game as I enjoyed it as a kid, but with better graphics. Possibly a superior version of the game than that of which I played. Well, my exposition and memory of the game were vastly different than what I actually got to play this go around. Whenever I saw gameplay at like a demo kiosk, found it to be really cool seeing Iron Man's suit look so crisp and reflective. Just put this idea in my head that better realistic graphics equals finer gameplay, but sadly that wasn't the case. Gameplay! So this game has a formula that it repeats throughout the game. The first we have a cutscene that tries to play out similar to the events of the movie. It is a movie tie-in game after all. Then a mission briefing giving you a motive and a general idea of what you have to accomplish to continue progressing through the story. And there are also some bonus objectives that you can try to strive for that grant you extra funds, as this game likes to put it, to upgrade your suit at the end of every main story mission. But I found those to be completely useless and honestly seems like it just serves to have the player pump more time into the game. But isn't that what we want? To enjoy the game we purchased and spent countless hours enjoying the fruits of our labor? Well, this is more like a banana that is covered in black spots on the verge of going bad. It's already starting to grow microscopic mold within the banana, but you still eat it without noticing it. It's not going to make you sick, but you do end up with a small stomach ache like 20 minutes after eating it. But after reading the mission briefing and bonus objectives, you have the chance to upgrade your suit and spend the funds that you have acquired through the previous missions. There is a letter M after the funds, I guess suggesting we could be talking about millions. If that's the case, a singular upgrade is like $70 million. That's like enough to buy an entire jet engine. That gives us an idea as to how rich Tony Stark is. I did a quick search and found out Jeff Bezos, the richest person alive, has actually surpassed both Batman and Tony Stark in their net worth value, yet he isn't running around in tights beating up bad guys. Well, whatever we perceive as bad is just subjective based on perception anyways. Back to the upgrades. Each upgrade gives you a small description of what it does and indicator of the stat improvements that it gives you. On that note, I actually didn't even notice any changes whatsoever throughout the entire playthrough. The game feels and plays the same from beginning to end. Iron Man's movement in the game feels well done to me. You can tell specific parts in the game that they put more time into than others, and Iron Man's mobility was one of those done well. It's pretty fluent, from walking to taking off and flying. They definitely captured Iron Man's motions as they appeared in the movie. I actually really like that part of the game, but unfortunately, that really is all I can say positive about the gameplay. Everything else just feels unfinished or pointless, but what more do I expect from a small developer company such as Secret Level, who most likely were rushed to meet with the movie's release date. Each mission consists of the same cookie cutter design. They begin the level by flopping the player on a plot of poorly textured land, followed by a yellow blimp on your radar that you have to fly to and destroy whatever that yellow blimp is. And that's literally it. It's incredibly basic. I can understand maybe doing this every so often from a bigger, more exciting sections, but when the entire game consists of just flying to a location and destroying a piece of tech, it gets really boring quickly. I was probably 30 minutes into the game when I was already pretty bored, and that's not what a game should do. A game should capture my attention for hours on end, having fun every moment. I mean, that's why games even exist, to give us countless fun memories and experiences we won't ever do in real life. Unfortunately, with the movie coinciding its release with the game, the final product isn't the main concern. It's all about getting it out in time for hype and having superhero fans and people that typically aren't aware of video game quality gobble it up for an extra buck. But hey, whatever man, someone out there's gotta eat. Missiles are some of the most annoying things in the game. As you fly around, you constantly have missiles and other projectiles hitting you, but it's to be expected since you're in the air like 99% of the game. Your radar is of no real help because the missiles appear really close to you, giving you almost no real method to deal with them. You do have the ability to catch a missile and yeet it back the way it came, however it's slow and honestly it's better to just let them either fly past you or hit you upright. Your health regenerates at a rate that just makes taking any damage at all obsolete, so there is no real tension and stress when it comes to getting hit. HUD is very lackluster. So you have a dial D-pad thing on the top left that is supposed to be the control to route your suit energy into aspects such as weapons, thrusters, melee, or L. Your suit energy is displayed on the yellow bar on the left. This depletes after doing anything from firing your weapons to your thrusters when you fly, but it's pointless, just like your health bar. It regenerates so fast it's almost aimless to even have an energy bar. Or, to actually make energy depletion a struggle, they could have implemented an item you pick up that fills up your energy bar. As I've said before, the health bar is just as obsolete as the energy bar. It regenerates quickly, so taking hits from enemies is not even an issue. If your health does end up reaching 0, it's cool. You have extra lives that put you back into the action right away. I like it, but there's no real threat in the game. You can pretty much get through the entire game and maybe fully game over like less than 3 times in your entire playthrough. Sound design. It was noticeable where the priorities went when it came to this department. I'm gonna play a few seconds of a few battles and see if you guys notice any significant differences. Alright, what were they? So one fight is just me fighting generic enemies. The second one is me taking the final boss on, the Ironmonger. Ooh. What the sugar honey iced tea is this, man? The final boss isn't any different than Enemy Joe number 34. But anyways, notice how not even the music sounds memorable, or great for that matter. It just seems like they used hero music track number 23 from a, now that's what I call a hero music CD. But literally the only cool things about the sound, the fact that they had their actual actors from the movie voice their lines for the game, which made it more tolerable since they definitely did a good job there.
Tried to kill both of us. Stain won't leave. AIM is desperate, and they're not going to stop just because you want them to.
Groups like the Magia are becoming a serious problem. They want what you and I have.
And in the end credits, they play Ironman by Black Sabbath. Exactly how they did in the ending of the movie, which I thought was really cool, but I honestly don't think the game is even worth playing, let alone even attempting to reach the end of the game, only to hear that song. You might as well just watch the movie at that point. Presentation! Let's start off with the most obvious factor. The graphics are complete balls. It looks like they just got a random novice game engine and used the default assets that it came with. The game looks like plain potato. Dude, it's not even funny. You land after a badass cutscene of you flying into the scene, and then as I mentioned earlier in the video, they just drop you on a poorly textured ground with no clear passion or time spent on the game visually. The tree models were just made, copied, and pasted all over to remotely resemble a playable area. Followed by that, you have the basic as fuck buildings. Like bruh, You couldn't have designed anything worthwhile. Supposedly you are fighting in towns and occasionally in a city, right? Areas inhabited by people. You know how the majority of the planet is comprised of? Well, everywhere you go, there's no people. There aren't any characters to interact with. There's no civilians just walking around. No people at all. The only section in the game with actual NPC enemies, it's just the beginning of the first mission where you escape the cave. You walk out and just like the movie, you're in the first suit that Robert Downey Jr. creates as he is held captive in the cave. That's like the only time you actually have to take on enemies that are walking around and aren't just fighter jets or robots. But that's where the praise, if you even want to call it that, ends. Even the NPCs are messed up. Everyone is literally just one copy-paste generic enemy and only just for that one beginning mission. You do end up fighting a few traditional villains like Madame Mask, Titanium Man, you know, just villains you probably wouldn't know about unless you watch the Ironman cartoons or read the comics. You also fight Whiplash, one of the main villains from the second movie. I thought that was hilarious because just like most of us, they probably had no idea that he was even going to be in the second movie. The circumstances that the dev team found themselves in just doesn't seem right. You have a specific deadline, you have to get your game out in time for the movie's release, so you also have the clock running. While at the same time, they were also busy developing Beast Rider on the same console, so they already had their hands full with a different Sega project. The finished products feel as if there was no real heart or soul put into this, which is kind of sad to say because it would have been awesome to have a game that makes you feel like Iron Man, the same way the Spider-Man 2 movie tie-in game made you feel like Spider-Man. There definitely was a demographic to this game. It consisted of the moviegoers that saw the movie and just comic book fans, but I can really just see the real audience player base was just your little cousins that had no money, so they had their parents buy them a game just because it's cheap and used at your local game store. Overall, it was just not a good game to play back then or even now. I can see game collectors just having it just cuz, with no real intentions of even playing it, but I have played it and I can say it was a waste of time. But hey, I hope the up and coming Avengers game can make a better Iron Man than this.
You know what? This is a waste of time.